So Alysaa Milano came out and tweeted about the Second Amendment. And what she tweeted about the Second Amendment was a particularly stupid thing. So what she tweeted out was, she said, also popular in 1791, the year the Second Amendment was adopted. And then it's a list of things. Slavery, the 3/5 compromise, bloodletting, lead paint, being literally owned by her husband, cholera, smallpox, typhus, dying in childbirth, a lot, using chamber pots, unsanitary surgical procedures, traveling by horse or foot, dying at the age of 40. Things change, y'all. We can do better. Hey, I wasn't aware that smallpox was actually popular in 1791. There's people had smallpox parties. They got together and they said, oh, you got that hot smallpox? Pass it on, man. Just hand me the smallpox. Dying in childbirth. Also not aware that that was supremely popular in 1791. I think people saw that as bad in 1791. Even slavery, which was popular in certain parts of the United States in 1791, was certainly not popular in certain other parts of the United States in 1791. But if you're going to talk about things that are in the Constitution of the United States, which seems to me closer than smallpox to resemblance to the Second Amendment, you might try the First Amendment. You know some other things that were popular in 1791? Freedom of religion, freedom of speech, no quartering of troops, no illegal search and seizures, a right to a jury trial, a right against torture. Right? These were things that were pretty popular in 1791. It turns out, because they're in that same document. You stupid idiot. So again, there's a notion on the left that all of time began with their birth. I remember that Barack Obama said something about how what Bill Ayers did before he met Bill Ayers was irrelevant because Bill Ayers basically didn't exist as a human. Right? Bill Ayers did all this stuff when I was a kid. Okay, so what? So what? The world didn't start turning when you were born. But folks on the left seem to think that all of the good things in life began just spontaneously when they were born or discovered them, and that they never pre-existed that. The same ideology, the same philosophy that brought you freedom of speech and freedom of religion brought you the right to keep and bear arms. They were part and parcel of the same philosophy. As far as the notion that the 3/5 compromise was some sort of ideological commitment to the non-peoplehood of black people, that's idiocy. If you look at the actual negotiations over the 3/5 compromise, which is a bad provision of the Constitution, the reason that it is in the Constitution is because it was there to prevent a worse provision of the Constitution, which would have been counting black people as full people for purposes of voting, but counting them as property for purposes of not being able to actually vote or do anything. That's what the South wanted. The South wanted, slave owners wanted, that if there were a bunch of black folks who were living in slavery in South Carolina, for purposes of representation in the Congress, for South Carolina, black folks would be counted as people, but they would not be able to vote and they would still be considered property. And the North said, no, we're not going to do that. You don't get to count black people as full people, excuse me, because it skews the representative sample. If the North had caved to that and said, sure, black people are full people for purposes of representation, but not people for purposes of property, guess what? Slavery would have lasted longer because the South would have had more votes in the Congress. But again, knowledge and historical learning are apparently somehow, there are a lot of folks on the left who are allergic to them. They kill a lot of the narratives they love so much. Alrighty, so we'll be back here tomorrow from CPAC. I'm speaking at CPAC, and I promised some notes on CPAC, but I ran out of time again today. I'll have some notes on CPAC. CPAC apparently, quick note, just banned, they just got rid of Jim Hofft as one of the speakers over at Gateway Pundit because Jim Hofft had been tweeting out stupidities about the school shooting victims in Parkland. I think that is perfectly appropriate. As far as Marine Le Pen, who's been invited, I'm not sure why Marine Le Pen is representative of conservatism. I didn't book her. I wouldn't have booked her. That said, I'm more than happy to speak to the thousands of students who are going to hear about some real conservatism, and that's an opportunity I look forward to having tomorrow at CPAC. So if you're at CPAC in the Washington, D.C. area, show up, and I'll see you there. I'm Ben Shapiro. This is The Ben Shapiro Show. The Ben Shapiro Show is produced by Mathis Glover, executive producer Jeremy Boring, senior producer Jonathan Hay. Our technical producer is Austin Stevens, edited by Alex Zingaro. Audio is mixed by Mike